back on the Zero Hour. This is your host, Richard RJ Eskow. When Donald Trump ran for president, he was the sole Republican in the primary who said he wouldn't go after Social Security, that he would protect Social Security. Well, since then, he's been nothing if not Republican in his determination to do the opposite of what he promised to do. That is to say, go after Social Security. My next guest has been vigilant not only in trying to protect and expand Social Security, but also trying to prevent Donald Trump from doing, and his friends on the Hill, Capitol Hill, from doing irreparable harm. So without any further ado, Representative John Larson is a member of the United States House of Representatives. He represents Connecticut's first congressional district, and he joins us once again now. So first of all, Representative Larson, thank you for coming back on the program.
Well, RJ, always a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for that lavish introduction. But we do have quite a fight on our hands here as we're struggling both with trying to get the Republicans to come to terms with this COVID pandemic and the relief that people need, and in the process, not to throw Social Security under the bus as the president has attempted to do, both with his deferral, but then even more boldly announcing that he would terminate the payroll tax in his second term, which the Social Security actuary said that would eliminate disability by 2021 and Social Security by 2023.
So I know, Representative John Larson, that you got a couple bills in Congress to try to address the way they're using the crisis to go after Social Security. Let's talk about the big one first. I mean, they're both important, and that is what you just mentioned. Trump says he wants to hold off on collecting the payroll tax that funds Social Security for the rest of the year. And when people point out that that means that people who are barely scraping by will owe a lot of money when the bill comes due, not a lot of money, but more than they might be able to put together, he then says, well, I'm just going to scrap that tax altogether when I get reelected. Now, why is that what I consider it to be, which is a really bad idea?
Well, I thank you for the question, but I think in the testimony we had are included remarks from the AARP, and I don't think it can be said any plainer or clearer than the way they drew it up in saying, on behalf of our 38 million members and all older Americans nationwide, we write to urge the Treasury Department and the administration to rethink its attempt to provide economic stimulus to American workers via a payroll tax deferral. While we agree that the economic help for families impacted by the coronavirus is needed, AARP has serious concerns regarding the administration's decision to suspend the collection of payroll taxes, which potentially undermine Social Security's long-term finances. That was further verified by the Social Security actuary. They go on to say Social Security is arguably the most important and successful program in the nation's history. It is the largest source of retirement income for most Americans and provides nearly all income, 90% or more, for 1 in 4 seniors. It also provides important protections for spouses, survivors of deceased workers, and for those with disabilities, which we heard loudly from, especially the veterans community. The American public overwhelmingly supports Social Security, and that support remains high across party lines, as all polling data demonstrates. And it's, 70% of independents, 68% of Republicans, and 80+% of Democrats all agree. And the AARP goes on to say, as we stated in a letter to President Trump last week, the AARP believes that suspending, reducing, or eliminating the contributions to Social Security made through the payroll tax will interfere with Social Security's long-term funding stream. This is consistent with the concerns we addressed to the President Obama in 2012 a bill that I opposed as well as member of the Ways and Means Committee at the time, because I thought it would do unturned harm, but it was only 2% reduction. This is an entire reduction, but as you point out, RJ, for then the president to go down and double down, not once, not twice, but 14 different times, that he is going to terminate, those are his words, terminate the payroll tax, which of course the actuaries have come out and said that would eliminate Social Security disability as soon as 2021 and Social Security as we know it by 2023. They have said they'd replace it with something, but you may have remembered they also said they were going to replace the Affordable Care Act with something. We've seen no plan for either.
No, it seems to me, John Larson, that what they're doing here is maybe you remember the old, trying to remember, I think it was the Popeye cartoons where the character Wimpy said, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. It seems to me like they're saying we're going to take away the money, the funding stream that finances Social Security is a social insurance program for the American people. So it's their program. They're going to take that funding away so that that program runs out of money, and they'll say they'll gladly pay us Tuesday. But we know that what that means, that the Republicans, that would mean drawing the money out of general revenue, the general funds of the government. And we know how they feel about that. They block it whenever it feels to me like whenever it's going to help people. So it seems to me like this is just a simple bait and switch to shut off the funding stream for this program and then say a couple years from now, sorry, you have no retirement, but we can't help you. Am I too cynical?
Yeah. No, unfortunately, I have to say you're absolutely right. And they continue to believe, and this is just furthering upon an old conservative philosophy that everyone's better off pulling themselves up by their own bootstraps. Well, who among us doesn't want to do that if we're in the position? But we don't have to go back to 1935 anymore. We only have to go back as far as 2008, 2009, and understand as we worked our way through the Great Recession and people saw their 401k become a 101k. And as the actuaries have pointed out, 90%, the 90th percentile of all Americans have not recovered their wealth and assets from the now. During that time, as you know, RJ, Social Security never missed a payment. Not a pension payment, not a spousal, dependent coverage, or disability coverage was missed during that time because it is the nation's number one insurance program. And as you pointed out, not cynical at all, unfortunately truthful, they've been trying to make this part of the general fund because what they would rather do is treat this as a welfare program subject to the tugs of war year in and year out of the budget system, which is a total departure from Roosevelt's concept and, frankly, from Eisenhower and Reagan's opinion on the Republican side of the importance that they both came to learn and significance of Social Security. And the American people are squarely with you, RJ, because they understand and know, and whether you're an independent, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you know the importance and significance of Social Security and what it means to your livelihood. And I mean, nobody gets wealthy on this, and let's be clear about that. The average payment is $16,000 per American, and that's, with males at $18,000 and females at $14,000 annually. But there are more than 5 million Americans who've worked all their lives and paid into a system and receive a below poverty level check from the federal government in the wealthiest nation in the world. So, as you know from our previous discussions, that's why we're out to change that. And we think that Social Security not only has to be sustained, but also we believe that it has to be expanded so that no one who works all their life and pays into a system can retire into poverty, and so that there's modest increases, including a COLA that works, that actually represents the things that elderly spend money on. And for those who continue to work, and most of them out of necessity, we're not taxing your Social Security at the same time you're working to try to hold on to those precious benefits and assets so that you can sustain yourself in your old age.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And again, we're speaking with Representative John Larson, and I know you have a couple bills you're working on in this area. And before we get to those, I just want to add that, the Republicans and Trump, they're saying this is a plan to help people get through the COVID economic disaster. But the fact is, if you want to do that, aren't there better ways to do it than taking a few bucks and out of a person's paycheck and not deducting them? You could do what Congress did last time, give people $1,200 or whatever amount you pick, something to really help pay the bills. It seems to me this is just another bait and switch. So you have a bill you've been working on. I believe it's H.R. 8171, Save Our Social Security Now Act, to address this payroll. Is that right?
Yes, we have two bills, as you pointed out, and I'm proud to say that we're working with the Senate. Senator Wyden has been nothing short of spectacular, and in fact, he testified at our hearing, and I think in a very straightforward and honorable way, took on the Republicans on this issue and said the same thing. I mean, the HEROES Act that you pointed out that the House passed back in May does twice as much as the Republicans are proposing for aid for coronavirus, and helps out people to a greater deal that they voted against. Now they're proposing to give half as much as we allocated in the HEROES Act, but take the money from people's Social Security and leave them in a weaker position, even though they say they'll pay it back, but pay it back through the general fund. They don't say how or where that money will come from, but it just seemed altogether inappropriate. So our proposals are quite simple. One we're doing in conjunction with Senator Wyden and the Senate, and that's called the Congressional Review Act. The Senate, because the Democrats are in the minority, has to use this special measure that's only been used 17 times previously. It was authored by no other than Newt Gingrich, and it was done because when someone tries through executive order to change things, you can utilize this proposal. As I said, it's been done 17 times, 16 of them against President Obama by the Republicans. So the Senate feels they're in a very strong position. We're in unity with them on this. So we've introduced two bills, but also because we can raise a bill on its own, we have a straight up, and you mentioned the bill number, we have a straight up proposal that simply says the president's executive order is null and devoid, and immediately would prevent that from happening. And as you know, they've also, and we heard testimony from our veterans, forced federal employees to have to comply with this. And that puts people in a god-awful box, and something where a number of them are rightly concerned that they're going to have to pay money come January for this, what appears to be more or less a campaign stunt, than anything that's actually going to achieve a positive result for people.
And, for those folks out there who are scraping to get by through this catastrophe, either they're going to get a huge bill at the end of the year that is going to be, hell for them to try to pay, or they're going to try to pull this trick where Social Security just doesn't get any funds at all and runs out of money. So either way you look at it, I think it's a raw deal for the American people, and I'm glad you're out there fighting that. And I know you've been working with Representative Danny Davis also on a bill to protect beneficiaries from problems with overpayments. So all the more reason to make sure Trump isn't the president and the Republicans don't control the Senate come January, if you ask me. I assume you agree with that sentiment too.
Oh, absolutely. And even when you hear from groups like the United States Chamber of Commerce and 30 trade associations, and from my home state, the Connecticut Business and Industry Association, say this is a wrong-headed move. It comes at a bad time. We know from the actuary reports how disruptive this would be, and at a time when, frankly, when people are seeing all across the board defined benefits disappearing, the only defined benefit that truly remains, and one that never missed a payment, even during that Great Recession, is Social Security. It's a number one economic stimulus plan for us, and it's the number one anti-poverty for elderly and children, for that matter, and singularly the one that veterans turn to rely on most for disability.
Well, thanks for all your great work in defending it. And again, we've been talking with Representative John Larson, who represents Connecticut's first congressional district in the House of Representatives. As always, Representative Larson, thanks for your great work on this topic, and thanks for coming on the program.
Always glad to be with you, RJ. Take care.
You too. And we'll be right back after this. I am Richard RJ Eskow, and you're listening to The Zero Hour.